Well, I'm excited to welcome my friend Jen. It started as a Facebook friend and just kind of grew over time. I don't even recall why I even said, hey, this girl would be cool other than CrossFit. So let me welcome Jen Steffes to our podcast today. So we met via Facebook and I just connected with you because of the health and fitness aspect. So talk about CrossFit. That was your jam.
Oh boy, it was. Yeah. And it's been a while. I was a daycare provider for many years and had and twins at home, 4 kids at home, and very little time, and I never worked out. That has never been part of my life, I guess. And in, I think it was 2015, there was a boot camp that was opening up at one of the CrossFit gyms that was just a few miles from my house. And on a whim, I was like, I'm going to do this. And my husband was like, whatever. And
bold move.
Yeah, totally. Like I went from nothing and jumped into this boot camp. And I loved it. It was a 6-week boot camp, and it was so fun. It lit me up. I found a fire. And so after the boot camp, then I signed up for the CrossFit class, and I did CrossFit. On and off, I was that gym closed after a while, so then I was a gym hopper for a while, and there's another word for it. But we kind of bounced around, a couple girlfriends and I, and then a friend opened up a CrossFit gym in 2018, and we started going there, and I found my groove again. So from 2015 to 2019, I should say, the beginning of 2019, I was kind of on and off, but I finally was finding my groove again, and I was back in a CrossFit gym and doing it 3 to 4 times a week and absolutely loving it. And I hate running. I'm not a runner. It's gross. I hate it. But I love just showing up. I never want to know the workout ahead of time, so I just show up. They tell me what I'm going to do. Usually you're like, oh, no, I should have skipped today. But it's always a blast, and I loved where it got me physically. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I have to say I have never been to a CrossFit class. I do a lot of the style of that workout, but I've never stepped foot in there. Have you always been, courageous in how you're like, okay, I'm just going to go pick up CrossFit? Like, that seems insane.
No, I have not. I think it comes with getting older and maybe just knowing that I needed to start make some changes and being healthier.
Sure.
So for me, it was the healthy aspect. It wasn't a weight loss thing. It was just, I need to make better choices. And I had started Thriving in 2014, which is a nutritional supplement. And I was just feeling better. I had more energy and I just felt more alive than I had.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of gave me the swift kick that I needed to do something a little more, take it to the next level. But, no, I'm not very brave when it comes to stuff like that, and I like to have a buddy.
Yes. I love that about the gyms, too, and I think that's where a lot of people, find their group, right?
It is not what you see in the, there's this, mentality of, the CrossFit mentality, and there's some of that. There's some competing. There's some really heavy-duty CrossFit people. I just loved the workouts, and so I didn't lift heavy. I didn't want to get big and bulky. I still fit into jeans, but it was... I loved that it was, you were never bored. And like I said, you showed up and you did some hard stuff for a short amount of time. Yeah.
I love that. So that was 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
Things started to change all of a sudden. You have leading up, was there any indication that your life was about to change?
No, not that I knew of. So I was actually living my best life. I had retired from daycare. I was a full-time work-at-home mom. I was making my own hours. I was part-time cleaning houses, so that was super active, and I was loving it. I was absolutely loving helping other moms. There was no better feeling than when I got a text message like, I just got home from work and oh my gosh, my house is so clean. It just made me feel so good. It felt like giving back. But I was making a good income doing it. I was taking my boys to school every day and I was home by the time they got off the bus. And some days I was just at home. I wasn't working Fridays or Mondays. So it was literally my best life. Yes. I would take the boys to school, go work out at the gym with my friend, go clean a house or two, run an errand, be home when the boys got off the bus. And I felt great. I was getting my nails done one day, and I noticed that these 2 fingers on my right hand were tingly, like they had fallen asleep. And I thought, that's weird. My nails or my fingers have never fallen asleep before getting my nails done.
Sure.
And they just never like woke back up. They kind of stayed tingly and numb. And I thought, okay, well, I was 39 years old. So I'm like, I'm almost 40. Working out a lot, cleaning houses is probably a pinched nerve. So I went to the chiropractor and she said, yeah, it probably is. Did some adjustments. And I said, I have really cheap like Target pillows. I think I should invest in better pillows and neck support. And she agreed. So I did that. And that was probably about 3 weeks before everything turned on a dime. Everything was great. My husband and kids went away for the weekend. And I went out with a girlfriend that Saturday night. It was a Saturday night, April 6th. And we had a great time. We let loose a little bit. And I woke up Sunday morning very sick, which I thought, well, I don't consume alcohol very often or very much.
Yeah.
So I really didn't think much of it. But I had 2 grand mal seizures at home that Sunday.
By yourself.
I was home by myself. And so my husband and kids weren't home quite yet. So I texted my girlfriend who had been with me the night before. She's also a nurse. And I said, I don't really know what's going on, but I think I've had seizures and something's really wrong. And she lives in Casson. She was at my house within 15 minutes. In the meantime, Troy and the kids had got home and he had just shut the bedroom door on me because he was kind of like, serves you right, you know, and he kind of giggled and just was going to let me rest and sleep it off. He didn't realize anything was going on and I was really out of it.
Yeah.
So Ashley got there and took me to the ER. And I had another seizure there in the waiting room. So she actually witnessed it and some of the nurses witnessed it. So the rush was kind of put on.
Sure.
She called my husband and said, I think you need to meet me here. I think something's going on. And there's a lot of it I don't remember, just from the trauma to the brain, from the seizures and shock, I suppose. But after a couple tests and an MRI or a CT at that point, they came back and told my husband about midnight, Sunday night, that there was a mass on my brain. And it was crazy. And I was sleeping through that. Like I was so tired and so out of it. And so they admitted me that night and then ran tests over the next 2 days. I was in the hospital and told me that there was a mass and we needed to figure out what we were going to do about it. So the mass was sitting right on the left part of my brain, right on the motor strip that controls the right side of your body. So that was where it was starting.
Sure.
And lucky for me, it was very close to right arm movement and then it would have gone to mouth. I love to talk. I like to feed myself, stuff like that. So I'm so lucky that it happened the way it did and when it did. I joke, but I'm also very much believe that Ashley is kind of a guardian angel. The fact that we were together that night, we have such a hard time connecting schedules. And that it just, I made that tumor angry and it showed itself.
That is just crazy. I can't even imagine having that conversation with your husband.
Right.
Was he the one that had to come tell you? Did they tell you?
We were in the room together. I kind of remember it. I remember what the ER doctor looks like. He was a redhead. What I don't remember is my husband making the phone calls. He made a couple phone calls that night because, of course, my parents and Ashley and there were a few people that knew that we were in the ER, wanted to know what was going on. If you know my husband, he's a goofball and he likes to make you laugh and he's just always silly. So his way of delivering it was an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, which my family and friends did all appreciate. But I think he was in shock. I mean, we were just in shock.
Right.
And then you don't know what that means. I mean, is it cancer? Is it not cancer? So I was just, I left the hospital on Tuesday. Wednesday, we met with a neurosurgeon and that team, and they said, so I just thought, okay, I guess I'll have surgery and they'll take it out and then you'll go on with life. But what we found out was it was inoperable because of the way it's sitting. They were so concerned about removing any of it and messing with that motor strip, which could mean paralysis.
Sure.
My right arm, gosh, that would be terrible. But when they started talking about, we're really concerned about mouth movement, using your tongue, using your mouth, I was like, there is no way. That's not an option.
Oh, right.
Excuse me. So What they did want, though, is biopsies because they wanted to know if it was cancer or benign and how to move forward. And so Friday of that week, I mean, we just kind of rushed from one step to the next.
Sunday to Friday.
Sunday to Friday. I had brain surgery on Friday.
My goodness.
And they went in and got out 5 biopsies of the tumor, six biopsies of the tumor. They wanted 4. And that gave them what they needed to do pathology and testing on it. So I had brain surgery, which is still crazy to think about, but it's like any other surgery. I have to go through it.
Right.
And was in the hospital, in the ICU for a day, and then in the hospital for a couple of days. And then was sent home to recover and to rest and to wait. And we waited 13 days before we knew. And that was the worst 13 days of my life.
I can't imagine. Like, what went through your head? Like, how did you guys, like, even communicate about it?
Oh, my gosh. I don't remember telling our boys, which is probably a blessing. There's a lot that I don't remember.
Yeah.
So some of it, Troy has filled in gaps. Some of it, I just choose not to remember it.
Right.
I don't remember telling my kids what we found out. I don't remember their reaction. I think we probably just said, we'll get through it, as a family. So those 13 days, I was surrounded by people. And that's what's so hard for me to accept right now or to imagine is the families that are being diagnosed right now and the patients right now that are going through this in this lifetime of COVID and social distancing and quarantining. I'm so blessed and grateful every day because I was surrounded by people and it was still so hard. Anytime I was left alone, it was terrible thoughts. And I was facing my own mortality. And at almost 40 years old, that's not something we think about. We still kind of, you don't think you do, but you still kind of have that, I'm invisible, I'm going to raise my kids, I'm going to be a grandma, and then maybe someday something will happen, I'll get sick, or, at 80, you never think that at 39 years old, you'll be diagnosed with brain cancer. Right. Ever. Especially living the life I was. I mean, I thought I was healthy-ish, I was medium, just working out and living life and having fun and happy. So I would lay in bed at night and I was having a really hard time sleeping just because of the trauma in the brain, and I was having a little bit of seizure activity. I couldn't drive. That was taken away for 3 months because of the seizures. So literally at home unless somebody took me somewhere. And just
to sit with your thoughts and think through it.
And I would have morbid thoughts. But I did a lot of praying. I did a lot. Of bargaining. I promised a lot of things. Yeah. And now I realize
how many of those, where are those, where's that list?
Right. But I would think about, my husband's young. So I hope that if this is a terrible, if I don't make it through this, I hope he remarries, but who's he going to remarry and who's going to raise my kids? And will they, just all these horrible, morbid, thoughts when you face your own, like, I'm not here forever. Right. And we don't know,
It's a really interesting thought because, you go, day by day, not thinking about it. And not that you want to think about it, but I'm like, we're all going to die at some point, so we have to address that. Like, how did you steer your thoughts during that time, or even the whole process? Because I know, like, I deal with anxiety issues and I can't imagine where my head would be in that situation. What was it going on that you physically or really had to change?
In those 13 days, I think that during the day it was really hard because I was home alone. My kids were still in school and my husband had gone back to work. Somebody has to work. Right. And so it would help when people were there. And like I said, people made meals for us. They came to visit. People would pull in my driveway. And my memory, I still struggle with some memory stuff, but back then it was terrible. I mean, I couldn't remember. One night we're saying prayers with our boys and tucking them in, and Troy was hugging one of them and saying goodnight, and I was like kind of waiting, and I was like, okay, come on, like, let's say prayers. And Troy looked at me and he was like, we literally just said prayers. So even, I mean, I couldn't remember 3 minutes at that point.
That is hard.
But just like I said, a lot of praying, a lot of bargaining, a lot of kind of figuring out what my purpose was. And one of the prayers that I prayed over and over and over and over was, okay, for whatever reason you've handed me this or this is happening, I don't have a choice, but I'll do it. I'll do it, and I'll do it with grace, but just give it a purpose. Give me some purpose in this. Don't let me go through cancer or go through this and then just move on.
Just to get through it.
Just to get through it, exactly. And then I had been a big self-development, Audible. That's what I would listen to while I cleaned houses. And I think that helped a lot. I think that I didn't know it, but I think that the reason that I dove into that so hard for probably a year and a half prior to the diagnosis was a preparation. Because I did have control over my thoughts sometimes. I mean, it was often at night laying in bed that I would cry myself to sleep. Or I'd get up and I'd journal. I'd write a lot. Which is helping now because I am writing a book and I'm trying to recover some of those moments. But 13 days we waited. The 12th day, which was a Wednesday, everything was put into my portal. And so on the Mayo portal, you can log in and see stuff.
Those things are dangerous.
I know.
They should give you a warning, like the doctor will call you and then we'll load them.
Right. There should be like a button you have to push before it loads.
Right.
But we were told a week. Like we'd have results within a week. And they waited till they had the entire pathology report, which now I'm grateful for. But it was a Wednesday. Stuff was loaded. I got a message like, you have a new test result in your portal. And I was like... And I knew enough not to look. I knew that I wouldn't understand it.
Right.
And it might be good news that I would think was bad news, or it might be bad news that I wouldn't understand.
Yep.
And so my husband came home. I had texted him that the results were in the portal, and he got home and he said, well, what's it say? Because I know you didn't wait. And I'm like, no, actually, I did. I want to do this the right way. I want to know and have it explained and my questions answered right away. And Thursday morning, I woke up and I just knew, a feeling came over me. Maybe it was a relief that it was finally the day, but I just had this peaceful feeling that everything was going to be okay. Like this wasn't the end of my story. And we walked on to Ganda in Mayo and Ganda ate, and I was ready. Like I posted on Facebook, I have my positive pants on. We're about to get some good news
right now.
I just knew, and it was weird. Maybe it was super hopeful, but all the stress and anxiety lifted. And my girlfriend was waiting off the elevator for us to surprise us. She worked at Mayo. My parents were there. And we met another lady that was waiting to get results as well. She was quite a bit older than I was. But we had an awesome conversation. And we walked back and met with the oncologist. And he said, if you have to have a brain tumor, this is the one to have. Like your outlook or your prognosis is good, and everything's okay. Like you're going to be okay. You're going to go through a journey.
Wow.
We had to go through. Then you start meeting with radiation oncologists and brain tumor specialists and all of that. But from the get-go, I was told this is okay. You're going to be okay. And I took that and put it in my pocket and thought, okay, that's on the hard days. You're just going to remind yourself this is going to be okay. You can do this.
That's a huge perspective, like being able to look at it. I think something that's challenging people right now in this season is that they just don't know.
Right.
You didn't know if it was going to be this or that, but once you found out, you're like, okay, now we can figure out a plan. But I think that uncertainty is hard.
I tell people all the time, it's amazing how many people that have been connected to me through others, and it's actually brain cancer. So brain cancer is only 2% of cancers. And I've met so many people that have been diagnosed, people I know.
Yeah.
I mean, my girlfriend was diagnosed with a brain tumor 2 days before me and then heard about me and then waited to tell me because she was afraid of. And it's crazy how much brain cancer is out there.
Yes.
And when I talk to people or any kind of cancer, any kind of diagnosis or any kind of waiting period, that waiting period is the absolute worst. Waiting to find out what was going to happen with schools with COVID was the worst.
Yeah.
And then once you have a plan, it's like, okay, you take the blow and then you decide how to move forward.
Right.
So anybody that's in that waiting game just has to know to hold on. Like that's the worst. And then you kind of come up and out of the mud and the muck and kind of make your way back to to dry land.
And that's good advice too, because everything has a season, everything has a time frame. You know, I'm a big proponent of it's not always going to be this way.
Yes,
but it's so hard,
It
to like
is.
actually practice that in your thoughts and actions.
It's so hard.
So once you got started, what did that journey take? Like, did you feel like, okay, we're going to do this plan, we're going to execute our plan? Did you feel that
It's messy.
had a purpose at that point?
Yeah, cancer treatment is messy. And I think it's because, and especially with Mayo, which I'm so grateful that Mayo was right in our backyard, and that we're right here. We went from an oncologist who was like kind of overall oncology to give us the news, and then to a brain tumor team. And the team at Mayo with the brain tumor area and brain cancer is the best humans on the planet. They're so amazing. And I asked one, I said, I haven't been given like a prognosis, like years. You always hear people get years.
Yeah.
And I said, I need you to be very upfront with me. And he said, if you're asking me how long you're going to live, I know the ages of your children, and I want you to know that I'm super confident that you're going to be at all their weddings.
Oh, geez, that's like
And I
a
was
huge
like,
perspective too.
Thank God.
Think about. Yeah.
Yeah. But through this process, so in that 13 days where we're waiting, praying for a purpose, like give this a reason, give this purpose. I don't know what it will be, but give it something. And I got a message from somebody I did not know on Facebook who said, listen, I'm running in Casson, the Dodge County Relay for Life, and we're doing a fundraising event, and I'd really like you to come and share your story. And this was
like
before
very
I knew.
immediate.
So this
Yeah.
was in that, this was towards, we were almost going to get the diagnosis. We were getting closer to that. But, and I thought I was kind of annoyed. Like,
this is a little soon.
Yeah, a little soon. I was just diagnosed. It was a few months off. So she said, I said, can I have some time to think about this? And she said, absolutely. You've got some time. You've got a couple weeks. I don't need to know. We've got some time before the event. And I'm like, thank you. And I think not even 24 hours passed. And I remember I was kind of picking up my house, and mom's never stopped, even with brain cancer.
Yeah.
And I walked by an end table in my living room, and my phone was sitting there. And I remember like a light bulb, like a moment that like slapped me. Like, you were praying every night for a purpose, and that you'll do something with this if God just like gets you through this.
Here's your sign.
And here's your sign. Why are you second guessing if you're going to go share your story wherever your story is at? And I thought, I don't know if I'll be in chemo at that point and be sick and I wrote her back right away and said, yes, I will talk at your event. That was the first event I spoke at. And I said, I can't promise what shape I'll be in but I'll do it. And she was like, thank you. And, that was the start of it. I've spoke on quite a few stages since then. I started a podcast. I've spoke on quite a few other podcasts. And I always wanted to write a book.
Yeah.
Always. That was always a dream. And what I wanted to write about was a topic that was really heavy. My husband and I are both co-parents, or we're growing out of that stage, thank God. But we were, when we met, we each had a 2-year-old. And it was messy, and it was ugly, and it was never peaceful.
Yeah,
ever.
I know that.
This is off topic, but I thought I've learned so much, and that was part of my mental strength too, like how to control only what I could control, and how to let go of so much that I couldn't.
Yeah.
Even when it involves your most precious, belonging, which is your child. And I wanted to write a book and help others through that, but I never could get myself to start going back to that place. And when this all started rolling out, we started talking about radiation to the brain and chemo and cancer treatments, I thought, here it is. Like, here's my story that I share. And so that's been my purpose, that and paying it forward, because so many people showed up for us. Meals, cleaning my house, just being with us, taking my kids, giving me rides I had to go to radiation every day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. And I couldn't drive yet. Yeah. And so I had rides from friends and family and friends of friends. And I just found a message the other day. I'm still finding messages that people sent me on Facebook or different avenues, emails. And this person happened to reach out to me again, and I read the previous message from her, and she had written me when I was just starting radiation and just kind of shared a little bit about her story and said, I'd love to meet you sometime in person. It's at Facebook Connect. I love it. And I'd love to give you a ride to radiation sometime and just help you out. And I had never responded to her. And so I wrote back and said, I just reread your message, from last summer. And first of all, I'm sorry. And second of all, thank you for the offer.
You have a pass.
Yes.
You get a pass.
But the amount of people that just showed up and supported us. And so my family and I had many discussions around the supper table about paying it forward someday. And we've done that as much as we can. And we continue to want to do that and just help as many people as we can.
What a great model. One thing that I always think about is that, God doesn't give us patience. He gives us opportunities to be patient, and it paints a perspective because, he isn't giving you something.
Right.
He's giving you the opportunity to learn and find your purpose and, all that sort of thing. What kind of things started going through your mind? Like as you're going through this, plan, at what point you were like, okay, this is going to be this book. This is going to be, how I'm going to start paying it forward. What did that look like?
Messy. I don't know. That's like the word of the day.
The theme.
But it is. But I didn't just soar. I think sometimes it might look like from outside that I soared through it and that I was positive and I was upbeat and I was happy and we got these little family moments in and I shared it all as much as I could. I struggled with a lot of things. I did do well with the actual treatment. I wasn't super sick. I was super tired. The fatigue was heavy. But I had so much help and my kids are a little bit older.
Yeah.
So they could help too. I remember having moments of grief. Like, I hate that this is my children's story. That part of their childhood is watching their mom go through cancer treatment or that their mom had cancer, or actually, I should say has cancer. I will always have brain cancer. It is not curable. You're not in remission. It's stable. It has stopped growing, and that's what we want. We just want that for a long period of time. From now, what I've learned and knowing other stories and connecting with other people, I will go through treatment again. It's very, very likely. It may be 3 years from now, 6 years from now, 20 years from now.
Wow.
It's just how long is this tumor, which is a low grade, so it's a slow growing, it's not an aggressive tumor, but how long will it just stay stable before something sparks it up and it starts growing again and we have to go through treatment.
Sure.
My outlook is for every month or year that we can make it, there's going to be new treatments and new advances, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
So I actually have an MRI on August 12th. So next week, that's every 3 months they will check it. So I'm always being monitored.
Yeah.
And that way, if it does start to grow, we'll know.
Yep.
We'll know right away. In a
Is
few
that
years,
comforting?
It is. And I thought, okay, 3 months is not very long.
Yeah.
And so I asked, will that ever be extended? And he said, yep. He said, if you go, let's say you go a couple years and you're doing good, we'll bump it out to 4 months. And I was like, okay.
Okay,
They're
so
going to
not
take
really.
good care of me. But as I'm coming up to next week, I've had some headaches and stuff recently. I think a lot of that is just the after effect of, I have to remember that my brain went through trauma.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember that I promised myself I'd allow grace, not just for others, but for myself.
And how does that work for you?
It's harder as I get further away from being sick. As life resumes whatever normal is in our season right now with everything that's going on in the world, it's harder and harder because I crave that lifestyle and I'm back to doing CrossFit. Not as hardcore and not as much as I was, but I crave that.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to want that normalcy. And so I'm realizing that I'm having a harder time.
Sure.
And I'm struggling a little bit with this life post-cancer.
What are some of those lies that go on in your head?
That I should be further than where I am.
Yeah.
That I should be doing more. That I shouldn't be so tired at the end of the day. By 7 p.m., I feel like I've done a full day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what I've done in that day. That my book should be further along. That I should be doing more day trips with my kids since it's summer and we should be soaking up the summer.
Yeah.
if I'm sitting and not doing too much that the laundry should be. I mean, just those things that we do as moms that for a year I allowed myself so much grace.
Yeah.
And I'm having a harder time with that. Even though I'm preaching to others, ask for help, allow that grace.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I tell people too. If somebody will ask, especially a woman, obviously I connect with moms and women that are going through this. If somebody asks, what can I get them or what can I do for them?
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is we as women and as moms and wives and care providers, all I wanted to do was to continue to do that, even through treatment. And so I had told my doctors, like, whatever you do for me, whatever treatment plan we come up with, just know I'm a mom and I'm a wife and this is my full-time job and you can't take that away from me. So I need to function. I can't go to bed for the next year. I need to function. And so when people came in and cleaned the house or made a meal or took my kids, on a Dairy Queen date or whatever it was, it helped me feel like things were still functioning in my house, even if I was napping 2 times a day or didn't feel good that day.
You feel like you had a past then, but you don't now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think all moms go through that, and it's even in this, season, right? We got through homeschooling and working and whatever that looked like. That was one thing that I had like written on my desk because it was like I had to work at home and teach and, try to manage Jumanji all the time. But it was a constant reminder, like, it's okay. And I think especially going into whatever happens next, like that is where we need to help show up for each other and get that message across. Like, if you're going to be working at home and your kids, it's okay that the dishes aren't done. It's okay that the laundry's not done. Like, your kids are alive. They're not, dying. They're not hungry, whatever.
It might be Pringles and Oreos, but they're fed.
I'm like, when did that stop being okay,
Right.
I've had chips and salsa plenty of times for supper because I just don't want to cook. But we need to make sure that we give ourselves that grace. Like, what is your advice or go-to, like, to remind yourself or to allow that?
I think what you said. So there's a book that I read prior to being diagnosed that was called Present Over Perfect. And it was one of the best books I've ever read. I can't tell you any excerpts or anything from it now because I forget. But I just remember like a wake-up call, like, this is the only time we get with these kiddos, or this is the only time I get with my husband, or this is the only time I get to be here on this earth. And I have let go a lot. I just remind myself, if my house is a mess, well, we're living in it. We're living, I'm here, I'm living in my house, I'm raising my kids. So my laundry room right now you can't even walk in it. And it's not weighing on me. I feel like I'll never get it done, but I am not worried about it. The other day we took off and went hiking. So I'm definitely making better choices when it comes to that, and I've let a lot go. When it comes to personal relationships and when it comes to being hurt by other people or just not understanding somebody or vice versa, I'm letting a lot more go. Like, okay, does this matter really? Like, does this change everything? Because I'm here and I'm living and we're living our life. And part of that I think is turning 40. They say you kind of stop giving flips when you turn 40. And part of it I think is 40, and part of it I think is walking a brain cancer and treatment journey that I just don't. I care a lot about different things more than I ever did, and I just don't care about certain things that before would have bothered me or I would have had a resentment over or would have just eaten at me. Now I'm just like, doesn't matter. And I think you need to talk to yourself. It is, but we have to. It doesn't just happen where a light switch goes on and you just live this life where you care about the right things and you don't care about the wrong things. It's a constant journey.
Practice and
and talking to yourself and self-development books. I'm diving back into those. And I even listen to them. I would listen to them during radiation. You could pick what you listen to. Sometimes I was like, nope, can't focus, need music. I was under a mask and they would strap the mask to the bed. So you were literally, I couldn't even open my eyes. There was a little nose hole, but everything else was covered under this hard mesh mask. As my brain was radiated. And so sometimes it was like, yeah, I'm going to do some self-development. And then sometimes it was, play soft old
Yeah.
school country. Because I know that from growing up. That's what my mom used to listen to. And so I'd be like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard this song in ages. And I would sing along to it in my head and just finding what works.
Yeah.
Even if you're not walking a cancer journey, just finding what works to keep you on path.
I agree. That's huge.
You're going to walk through the junk and the muck, and you can sit there for a little bit. I just saw a slogan on Facebook or meme on Facebook the other day, and I've been using it probably too much. But, we get in these moments or these ruts, and we have this baggage that we carry, and it's okay. It's okay to sit with it for a little bit. Just don't snuggle with it. Don't put it in your backpack and carry it around.
Awesome.
Toss it aside, walk by it, and let it go and be done.
It's crazy how much we carry and then, like what our kids see. I was at a conference and I will never forget this visual, but the gal walked around the room and collected purses from people. And she said, basically asking people what their hangups were, right? Like, here's self-doubt and, here's anger and here's, all these things. And she had all these bags she's walking around carrying. And then she had her kids come up, her 4 kids come up and just started unloading them on them. You're like mind blown. It was like the biggest picture of, oh my gosh, like what we carry, we pass on, and how our kids look at us, back to your memories things, what your kids are going to see or what their memories of you are going to be, later on in life. Like, we have a lot of control over things.
Yeah.
We really do.
Right.
We can't control getting brain cancer, but we can control moving through it. We can't control the conversation at the dinner table.
Exactly.
What kind of things that, we say and do.
Exactly. And what that turned into, I didn't finish that story, I don't think, was I was so concerned about my kids, this being their childhood. It was a year of their childhood. Yeah. But what it ended up turning into was a blessing. And I'm so grateful that my kids witnessed this journey at the ages they did because so many people showed up for us and so many people helped us. And they held the benefit for us. And the room was
jam-packed. I was there.
Packed.
Yep.
You were there. It was jam-packed. Person to person. And we can't do that right now in this season for other people who are suffering, which is so sad. But what I realized is my kids are witnessing how good the world is, how good our tribe is, how good our circle is, and that if we just take care of each other, we can make it through.
Yeah.
And so instead of mourning and being sad that this was my children's, a chunk of their childhood, not their entire childhood.
I mean, they can't remember to clean their room. I'm sure they'll forget lots of pieces of that.
Exactly. But all this good that surrounded us for that whole year. And I just thought, gosh, what a blessing that my kids got to experience that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's all in how you can twist it and turn it. And I love talking, so we go to many events, and they always are right there listening. And it was funny because we were just at an event a week ago back in Cass, and I was back there, and the same gal was organizing it. And so I said, my first time speaking was a little over a year ago. I was a cancer fighter. I'm now here as a cancer survivor speaking again, which is so awesome to speak as a cancer survivor.
Oh, I can't imagine.
And
just to say that over and over,
Yes. And we were kind of sitting down from where I was going to talk. And so I got up to go down and get ready. And I have twins, but we call him the youngest by 15 minutes. He was sitting in a chair, and I said, are you going to come with us or just stay here? And he said, I'll just stay here. And I kind of joked with him and said, oh, you already know the story? And he's like, yeah, I lived it with you. I think I know the story.
A little eye roll.
Yeah. But he ended up coming down, of course. But it's brought us together.
Yeah.
And it's just taught us as parents, Troy and I, and that really what all matters is just us,
And showing up. And
yeah.
I think that makes a huge difference. And I think not only, does it show your kids and you guys, these people that showed up, but people seeing other people showing up, especially I remember at that benefit, so many people were like, I don't know her, that would be a common question, right? Like at a wedding, how do you know the bride and groom?
Yeah.
But it was like, I don't know her. My friend of a friend does, or, whatever. And it's like, we need those reminders sometimes that it's okay to show up for people you don't know. Yeah. It's okay to reach out and do some of those things. And I think it's, selfishly, serving yourself as well when you do those things.
I'll tell you that benefit, did more for me. I mean, aside from the way people helped us financially, that benefit did more for me personally and the strength that I felt, and because I never felt alone. And when all those people came together, they'd all show up one by one at my house.
Yeah.
But when everybody was in the same room and I got up on stage to thank everybody and I looked out, I was overwhelmed with like, okay, I'm not going to let any of these people down. Like, I'm going to beat this, and I'm going to live to help as many people as I can in the same way.
Yeah.
So when you show up for people in that way, it's more than just the financial piece. It's more than just, now I don't have to cook a meal tonight because it's already done. It is the love and support, and like, we've got your back. Someone's got your back.
There's a lot of power in numbers, right?
Yeah.
And even just being able to to see that collectively, I'm sure that was amazing. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
How did you get from, now we're done, right? And I'm air quoting here. You're done with your treatment cycle. Yep. What does that new life look like for you? And what are you hoping is going to happen in the future?
Good question. I'm asking myself that every day.
Yeah.
So I went through the 6 weeks of radiation. We took a break. We knew that we got an MRI and the tumor was already shrinking, which was awesome news. Shortly after that, I started to have some side effects, and swelling took place and some scar tissue built up. So right now it's hard to tell when you look at it, like what's scar tissue, what's swelling, what's actual dead cancer cells, because it doesn't go anywhere. It just stays there. But it looks good. The doctors say it looks good, so I believe them. So then we took a break and we started chemo. I did 1 round of chemo that was 5 days in a row, and that went great. And then the next month, I went to do the same chemo, and I had an allergic reaction. It was the one time I was in the chemo room alone. Otherwise, there was always somebody with me. And I had an allergic reaction to the chemo, and so they had to quick administer a large amount of Benadryl and some meds, and we had to go back to the drawing board. So I was put on, there's not very many chemotherapies available for brain cancer. It's getting across that blood-brain barrier to get to the brain, and there's just not a lot of stuff that does that. So luckily there was another option. So we went back to the drawing board, another chemo. I started a few days later. So I got the first round plus 4 rounds in. Our goal was 6 rounds. Not very many people make it all the way through all the rounds. Chemo, so you hear people say I have to do 6 months or 9 months or a year. It is literally just a number that's thrown out, and it's kind of a goal. They don't know, okay, it takes 4 rounds or it takes 6 rounds. So he said, the doctor said, if we can get you, 4 to 6, somewhere in there, we'll be happy.
Yeah.
I did well with chemo. I had a lower dose than what they anticipated, and I never got to a full dose. I had some issues with my blood counts, and my lungs kind of took a hit. So I had to do some breathing treatments every month, which totally were awful, but whatever. I did it, and it got through it. And then COVID hit. So we got to March, and I had chemo March 12th, and then COVID hit. And of course, the fear of this brand new respiratory disease coming out, I was
as if this already wasn't enough to handle. Oh my gosh.
I was like, my husband would come home from work and I was freaking out that he was bringing all these germs in. And so when stay at home happened and my husband was actually furloughed, I was so relieved. So we were home for 2 months together, all of us, and went nowhere. It was literally the best 2 months of my life. It was so awesome. We got some home improvement projects done.
Yep.
I was coming kind of at the back end of chemo, so I was feeling better. But I really started having these thoughts like, I'm supposed to have 1 more round. I was supposed to have another round in May. And I didn't want to. I was just so worried about my lungs. And then, we didn't know what COVID was and how many were going to get it. It was so scary. And so we went in, we did an MRI. We'd always do an MRI and then meet with the doctor and then schedule chemo. And I told my husband, I said, I don't think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to make the decision for myself that we got this far. We know it's been good, the risks and the benefits and weighing them. And so I sat down with the doctor and I said, I have to tell you, I don't think I want to do this next round of chemo. And he said, I'm so happy that you brought it up first. We've been talking as a team and we wanted to present you with the same option, that we think you've made it far enough. We don't know what's going on right now with everything in the world and this pandemic. I think we can call it done. And so it was so anticlimactic because
we agree. Okay.
Yeah. I thought, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
And like with radiation, like you schedule your last day, you schedule your bell ringing. 35 people came in and were waiting for me when I came out. It was such a celebration.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of a stay-at-home order, and we're like, okay, chemo's done.
All right.
So we had, called everybody, got a Dairy Queen cake, and had cake at home and just celebrated. Yep. But it was good. It was a win. It was we did this. This is done. Then it was just COVID lifestyle. So we're still not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Just still at home. Teaching,
it definitely adds that heightened, I think everyone was concerned and worried and all of that, but to have the concern for, the immune compromise.
Well, and just that my lungs were already struggling.
Right.
I thought, you take COVID on top of my lungs, which are already kind of, I was on some steroids and stuff for my lungs. So, we've since weaned off all medications, so no more steroids, no more anti-seizure meds, which in the beginning made me a little nervous because I'm like, but I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Off all medications and just slowly finding our new normal in this weird season of our world.
Yeah.
One of the big things, of course, was weighing on today's decision, what's going to happen with school. And so knowing that my kids will be home distance learning most of the time this next school year also feels like a stepping stone for me because I can kind of just give myself permission to be at home and just write and finish writing. I'm about a third of my way through. I have tons of notes and all these things, but actually
that's so
writing.
Exciting.
So I think that's I think this is my next goal. I thought I was going to become a realtor, so I bought a class and I started it, and I started dabbling in all these things, and then I just had to sit down and have a serious one-on-one with myself. One thing, then the next thing, because I think when we were done, I was like, okay, now I want to do all the things,
right?
And I physically can't do that right now, and nobody mentally can do that,
right?
Ever.
I think it's so hard to get honest though with yourself. Like I was talking with someone the other day about, moving forward, with the plan. I'm like, we got to get to the basics. We got to get honest with ourselves first about what am I feeling about this? Where am I hung up with it? Because otherwise, none of this other stuff makes a difference.
I know.
It's crazy. Yeah. How do you find, the courage to keep moving forward? Did you run into people that were, maybe other cancer patients that were not of the same mindset?
Yeah, there's been some of that. I have people reach out to me weekly. And so one of the things that I struggled with big time was hair loss. I had really long
kill
hair.
Me.
It was terrible. I won't lie. Whatever you're dealing with and struggling with, for me, I was like, I'm going through brain cancer, but I want my hair. And I really struggled with that. And so I had this long hair that I hated. We all want different hair, right?
Yeah.
Until your hair is gone. And then you're like, I'll take whatever hair.
Right.
I just want my hair back. So radiation, they told me I would lose. They had shaved a little spot when they did surgery. And they said, you'll just lose that spot again because it had started to grow in. I was like, oh, I can cover that. I can flip it to the other side. I lost this whole area. So I had a little bit of hair here and it went around. So it was terrible. And I wasn't prepared for it. And so I mourned my hair. I'm still mourning my hair. Still. I'm growing it out. And I'm just I look back at pictures will pop up on your Facebook memories. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Is it totally different now too?
No, not too much. It's still coarse and not easy to work with.
But
yeah, exactly.
It's here.
So, lost the hair, did wraps for a while, and then it started growing in, and I had a mohawk for a while. I went bleach blonde. I've never been blonde, platinum blonde before. And I did it because I was like, I got permission from my oncologist, and we did it. And it wasn't fun. We probably, looking back, my hairstylist was like, I am never again listening. I was going through chemo, skin was a little irritable, And then I went platinum blonde, all over. But
and a haircut from your husband too.
And my husband, my husband got out the clippers and gave me a haircut during our stay at home as well. So I've gotten pretty brave with it. But the whole point of this is another person who I don't know personally is going through radiation right now for brain cancer, and she's reached out quite a few times. And she's struggling with hair loss and just struggling with accepting it. And I guess that gives my struggle purpose. Like I did not just, some people are like, it's just hair, shave it, it'll be back later. That wasn't me. And so whatever part of it is that you struggle with, it's okay. Even if it to other people seems like you're just worried, it's just hair. What are you worried about? You have bigger things to worry about. So for me, it's being there for others who are, so I just yesterday, again, I got a message saying, hey, would you mind reaching out to this person? They have a journey similar to yours. And I think it would really be beneficial if they could talk to you. And that's happened 6 or 7 times probably in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so if I can be there for somebody else, because I truly get it, while they're in the storm, it kind of makes it all worth it.
Yep. Not the club you want to be in, but if you're going to be in it, I mean, make it work,
Exactly.
What kind of advice would you give people in general when they're going through those struggles? If you can get through brain cancer, I'm sure you've got some advice that you've learned along the way.
Right. And sometimes I feel like I have to re-give myself that advice as, you move back into normal, you get back into normal habits. But I think it's just really focusing on the positive. I mean, you're here and you're living and you only get right now. And one of the things that I would tell myself through even that 13 days when I was like, I have no idea what's going on, because the doctor had said this to me, was when I asked about my prognosis, and he said, well, I'm confident that if it's just brain cancer you deal with, you will live to be at their weddings. However, I can't promise you that you won't be in a car accident in a week. We don't know.
That's so true.
And so I could survive brain cancer and then in 2 years have something completely wild take me out. We're going whitewater rafting in a few weeks in Wyoming. Scared, so scared. And Troy's like, my husband's like, seriously? And I'm like, so
different
scared.
Kind of fear. Different kind of fear.
You just never know. I did acupuncture yesterday for the first time, and I was like, is this going to hurt? And my chiropractor was like, really? Like,
define pain levels
here. You're
here.
Be justified. But I'm trying not to live with that fear, trying not to live in fear, trying not to focus on what's going wrong.
Yeah.
Trying to focus on like life, even in the season that's like yucky and everybody's at each other's throats and all the politics and oh my gosh, everything that's going on is, first of all, shelter yourself from it. You know, I mean, know what's going on.
It's a choice, that you
be
can
in
make.
the know, but don't consume it every day. It's just so heavy. But I also remind myself and remind my kids that the world is so good and we witness that. And so when you see all this negative and all this yuck going on, we just have to remember that 99% of the world and its people are good. This life is good. If you can't get out of a rut, do something, whether it's talking to somebody, talking to a professional, buying an Amazon self-development book, listening to a podcast. I mean, podcasts are free and it's the easiest way to get some good into your mind.
Absolutely.
What you feed yourself is so important. And the way you talk to yourself is so important. And your children, like you said, will follow your example.
Yeah. I love that. And it's a great way to kind of like, wrap everything up. But I think, what you tell yourself, you believe the most. And that's the most important, words that you give to anyone is the ones that you tell yourself. I love that. So we're talking about podcasts. Obviously, we're on one. Yeah. But you started one.
I did. Yep.
Another courageous move. You were thinking, I'm going to start the story. I want to reach women. I'm going to figure out how to
exactly.
podcast.
So I just, researched. I called a friend who I knew had one. Actually, I had gone to a women's event. And I didn't feel the best that day, but a girlfriend had invited me. And so I went to a women's event downtown Rochester and had a blast. It was so much fun. Was it the Living Leading? Yes.
That was a great event.
Yes.
I loved that event.
And we could put a ticket in to win something, and there was a one-on-one coaching with Megan. And I didn't even know who Megan was, but I was like, coaching. I could probably use some of that.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning that. And it was one of the best things that happened because we had the best session developed a friendship out of it. But she helped me a lot with that podcast and how to start one and kind of how to go through the steps of it, etc. And that's kind of what kicked it off. And then, so my podcast is available on wherever all podcasts are.
And what's it called?
Grace, Gratitude, and Perseverance.
Yeah.
Grace is my favorite word. In fact, I've been looking at tattoos because I love the word grace. We talked about it earlier. I think we need to allow so much more of it in our lives for ourselves and for our families and our neighbors. And it's not always easy.
Yeah.
And
I always say give grace to yourself like you do your kids. Like we let our kids do things over and over and over again, and it's okay, we'll keep going.
Right.
But we never tell ourselves that.
I mean, it's enough that I want it tattooed on me so that I can see it every day. But I've had some great guests. It's not all cancer oriented. I've had some great stories. People walk through crazy things in this life.
Yes,
and sometimes we get so wrapped up in ourselves that we are so consumed with what's going on with us that we forget that others are walking crazy difficult journeys or have already walked it and have come through and they're persevering through life. And so I just like to find those stories. I love to hear from other people.
Yeah.
And I love people's stories. I love to know people's stories.
I love the word grace, and I think that is a great way to end this. You've taught me a lot of things too, and it reminds me like we all need a little bit of grace.
We do.
So whatever you're doing, if you're listening to this, just tell yourself, like, it's okay that the dishes aren't done. It's okay that whatever it is, give yourself a little room to breathe.
Exactly. If your flowers are dying on the front porch and your laundry room is inaccessible, that's my house right now.
Something's always dying in my house for sure. So where can we find you?
People can reach out anywhere. So there's a couple different avenues. I'm on Facebook. I love Facebook. I love it. I love
Especially
it for
now,
connections.
right?
I know. So my husband and I share Facebook. Jen Troy Steffes is our Facebook page. I am Steffes Strong on Instagram. You can always email me at steffesstrong@gmail.com. Otherwise, I'm sure
or
through
find
here to find my podcast. Yeah. Listen,
Perfect.
we have another, a little plug, but a good friend of mine is a child psychologist, and we are going to do a podcast. We wanted to wait till the announcement came out with Rochester Public Schools.
And then give it a second to breathe.
Exactly. But we want to just kind of talk about children's mental health and how you can guide your children.
Oh, that's so
And
important.
I thought I was so ready for today's announcement in what we were going to do with school. And when I read it, I was getting ready to come here. And so I had to keep it together. But otherwise, I think I would have been a mess. And so I think we as parents, just a little guidance from a professional. And if we can just keep talking to each other and helping each other out, there's no perfect plan or setup or anything. So we all just got to show up for each other.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is awesome.
This was
I
fun.
appreciate it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.